Next claim.
All right, so so they didn't have any controversial opinions to give here, so he's just moving to something else. Nothing really to say. Okay, let's see what we got.
It is possible for people to change sex. It is possible for people to change sex. Five, four, three, two, one, move.
So the interesting thing here is really just how we define sex. This is kind of not an interesting question, right? Because if sex includes social role and your social role changes because your gender changes or whatever, the way you interact in society changes, you're fulfilling the role of a man or a woman in a way that you were differently. If that's part of the definition of sex, then your sex can change. If it's not part of the definition of sex, then it can't change. I don't know why this question comes up. We should just talk about how we want to define these words. It's such a pointless topic, and it feels like it's always framed as some kind of gotcha. Oh, these people don't believe in biology. They're trying to undermine biology. These are questions among biologists. How should we define sex? This is a human definition of phenomena that we observe in the world and classify in any way that we want to. If we decide we should classify it in this way, that sex includes gender roles and societal roles, then we should do it that way. If we don't do it that way, then we don't do it that way. There's no reason to have some kind of, opinionated or some kind of empirical question around this. This is just definitions. It's so pointless. But let's see what Peter does here, and if with these, I guess this is like a skeptic conference. So they'll probably be somewhat hesitant in how they
Why do you
define it.
agree?
I think people have changed sex
Okay.
many times. Um,
How do you define sex?
Yeah. Okay. Here we go. So let's see if this helps.
as in gender.
Yeah. So that's a definition. That's a usable definition. Sex is the same as gender. I mean, we're talking about in terms. He's probably meaning it in terms of social roles. I don't think anybody is genuinely trying to undermine biology. Everyone understands what chromosomes are to some degree, or understands, a little bit about how hormones work or development works. Most people get a little bit about that.
We're not on easy questions here,
There's
but I
there's
think
synonyms for you, sex and gender.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
Yeah, I mean, I would split them up because I think it's useful to split them up. Gender, we're talking about something sociological, the way that we interact with each other at just a day-to-day level, and sex is something we're in the realm of biology. For me, I'm a biologist as well, so it's useful to split them up. It's something that conceptually makes sense to me, but I can understand what people are talking about when they say they're synonyms.
In this case,
Okay.
Okay,
How do
it just moves on. Okay,
you define, are sex and gender synonyms?
No, I think that
they've got different definitions here.
if you meant gender, which I think is actually how
No, I meant sex.
Okay. All right, let's see.
then I strongly disagree.
But you're on disagree.
Or disagree.
Oh, okay.
But I could be there actually.
Or you can move if you want.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why did you move?
Because you clarified the question.
Because I feel like maybe we defined it better, or I thought about it
Yeah.
a little longer.
Okay.
I think that people cannot change their medical sex, but it's easier to say that they could change.
An interesting question. So when you talk about like medical sex, that's not a term that I hear a lot, but I think that could be a meaningful phrase, which is when you're in the medical system, there's certain like conditions or disorders that you might be dealing with. So obviously, in terms of whether you can become pregnant or not, that's not something that you can. So you can lose the ability to become pregnant. You can't gain, let's say, so if you were born, or have like male development from fetal stage, you can't gain the ability to become pregnant. Not in this decade or century anyway. You could lose the ability to become pregnant. On the other hand, when it comes to hormonal changes, so the rate at which you might be at risk for breast cancer, for example, might be significantly higher if you undergo a hormonal transition, let's say from male to female, or the reverse, vice versa. So if you have a double mastectomy and you're born female, obviously your chance of breast cancer is lower because you have less breast tissue. There's less cells that could become malignant. So medically speaking, that is something that your risk factors could shift if you undergo some kind of medical transition. If you undergo a social transition, I don't know that there's a lot that might shift. So I think that's a meaningful term that he's bringing up there, actually.
Change how they identify as a man or a woman, but for me, the language of male and female remains the same because it's a medical question, and a biological question, not a matter of identity.
And I would just say that, could I just go on?
Yeah.
I would say because of the advances in medical, that's why it's not just a question of how you feel and how you identify, that medically you can become female or male, you can have the surgery, and you can actually physically function as that gender.
So for you, if somebody full surgery, the whole 9 yards, the whole ball of wax, if someone does that and they transition, quote unquote, into the opposite sex, they are then biologically that opposite sex.
Yes.
I mean, again, it's such a pointless, this is one of those philosophical questions that if we just define it slightly more carefully or more specifically, there's nothing to talk about. Can you change your chromosomes? No, not currently. Can you change your hormonal ratio of estrogen to testosterone? Absolutely. Can you change your genitalia? I mean, to some extent. Can you change your gametes? No. These are all questions. Every single individual question is such a trivial answer. There's nothing to talk about. But then you just kind of mash it all together. This is like a like a subprime mortgage of philosophical questions that you've just melded these questions together and tried to make up something that you could have as a topic of conversation. There's really nothing to talk about on these individual questions, but have amalgamated something that feels like there's some meat to it. It's so strange.
Yes, and I know there are some physical differences if you've gone through puberty as a male, and I'm not 100% on that all transgender or women.
Right, and so you also have some amount of development that you can go through based on your hormonal ratios as somebody who is has not gone through puberty. That is a stage of your development, obviously, from 0 to 9 months, and from birth to 2 years. Those are extremely important stages of development. Maybe you could argue more so than puberty. So you can only change your development so much, at the age that you can consider your life and make any kind of decisions. But you can change some of your biological development.
Women who have been men and transitioned should be allowed to cage fight as women, or
Okay, that's a separate issue.
but that's
though.
a separate issue.
Yeah.
They are. I feel you can become the other sex.
Okay, and you disagree with him strongly.
Yeah, it's just a simple matter of genetics. That's that.
And
X chromosome, Y chromosome. I mean,
So again, this is just, I have a different definition, so I see the answer to this question differently. I'm focused on genetics, which you currently can't change. Yeah.
what do men have, or what do women have?
I'm not a geneticist, but I know there are differences. I mean, a Y chromosome for the men, X chromosome for the women, in very simple-minded terms.
And so for you to change
Did I
sex,
say X chromosome for the men, Y chromosome for the men?
for you to
I mean, just for anybody in the audience, XY karyotype for males, XX karyotype, XX karyotype for females.
Change sex then for you here.
Well, it's just physically impossible. I mean, once the genome's been created and you've formed, and
So if they could change people's chromosomes, you would say that people had changed their sex.
Excellent follow-up question. Okay, wow. I don't know why this is the first time I'm watching a video and this comes up and anybody ever asked this follow-up question, but wonderful follow-up question. Yeah, let's see.
you have to put them in a time machine and take them back into the right into the.
But if it were possible to give someone drugs. All right, new claim. Chromosomes determine sex. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
Oh, interesting. So the guy who was talking about biological sex in the checkered shirt, he's actually staying. So he doesn't think it's chromosomes. So presumably it's something like development due to hormones, which is kind of usually downstream of chromosomes, but not always.
Strongly agree, strongly disagree,
Okay,
slightly disagree. Okay, pick it up. Write the best reason for it. Write down. Don't let him see. Best reason.
Going out on a limb here.
And then I'm going to ask you, sir, my island friend, I'm going to ask you either to
Are
guess
they in Hawaii?
or if any of their reasons persuade you. So I don't want you to be, hoodwinked. I don't want you to be, like shocked with what's to come. That's what's going to come.
Forewarned is forearmed.
All right,
Correct. Correct. Unbelievable.
Great.
Okay, let's hear it.
That in every case of a measured X and Y chromosomal detection has created the respective sex.
Is that what you have on your board? Don't show him.
Yeah,
So he's right.
yeah.
Okay, show him then. The genes are what they are.
Okay. Well, okay.
Okay.
Kind of irrelevant argument.
Was that reason sufficient to persuade you to move to neutral?
No.
Okay. What is his best reason that he has written down there?
Oh, why he disagrees?
Why he strongly disagrees, not just disagrees.
Man,
I mean, these guys just haven't thought about it a lot. This is kind of rough. I mean, so there's different ways that we could look at this. So if you say it's chromosomes, the question is like, okay, it's fine to define, like, again, sex is something that we define because it's useful for talking about phenomena in the world. Sex isn't like a thing that exists. It's something that we define so that we can make sense of the world around us. It's useful. It's a definition that's useful, right? That's why we define things. If we want to talk about chromosomes, that's okay. Usually what people are really thinking about is development. And sex chromosomes usually are the defining factor in terms of hormonal balance and therefore development. But there are people with, let's say, androgen insensitivity who are XX karyotype, but oh gosh, I hope I don't have this backwards. It's either this or the reverse. XX karyotype, insensitive. Oh gosh. We do a quick Google. Androgen insensitivity syndrome. No, this is XY. So somebody who is XY karyotype, so they have a Y chromosome, but they develop as a female kind of body structure, which is commonly referred to as like the kind of default for human development, was developing as female and then kind of switching into a male mode of development. So somebody who has this condition, who's in a situation, I feel like it's not relevant to look at their genetics. You would look at, well, what is your development? So what we're really talking about is what is your development, basically as a fetus, which is usually downstream of karyotype, but the ultimate thing is the hormones. That's what affects your development, and then it's really the development itself. So it's whatever your development is in terms of, which is basically like, what do you look like? So this is kind of a fuzzy thing when humans evaluate this with each other. We've got a comment from the chat. Isn't it escapist to think that a change in definition changes the reality of the thing? What if I'm faced with a dead loved one and I define life as something that includes that person? Will that person become more alive with that change in definition? I mean, look, we're not talking about the reality of a thing. We're talking about the definition of a thing. So to define dead versus alive, I mean, why would you change that? Why would you say, we're defining? I mean, the thing is the thing, and people are what they are. Our definitions for sex, for example, I mean, it could be based on karyotype, it could be based on development, it could be based on hormonal balance at a given time, it could be based on genitalia, it could be based on social role, it could be based on any of these. These are all useful ways to define things. I mean, if somebody is dead and you can't talk to them, you can't interact with them, they will never recover. That's the phenomena. That's the situation. Changing the language doesn't mean that much. The reason that definitions matter a lot for this is because people are playing a kind of arm wrestling game where they want to say, well, this is the way that we define sex. This is the reality. Anything else is delusion. And so it's fighting over definitions because you're trying to make some kind of normative social claim about how we should look at things, which I think is ultimately not really a game that anybody can win. I think it's kind of pointless to make that the battleground. We should just try to understand and be honest with ourselves. What is the thing that matters? When I walk around and I talk to somebody, I don't know anything about their karyotype. I don't know what their genetics are. This is never once come up in conversation when I'm meeting somebody. Oh, what's your karyotype? It's just never happened, right? So it kind of can't be the thing at a social level that defines gender or sex or whatever it is that we're talking about, right? There's some topic of conversation. It's a little bit obfuscated by the fact that, there's this gender war or culture war that's happening. And so people are trying to manipulate the conversation, gain the upper ground by trying to have a more objective measure. It's not objective. You talk to somebody and you get a certain vibe. You either like or dislike or totally fine with or have no opinion about, trans people or gay people. There's some people that, oh God, this feels, horrific to look at somebody like this. Or you think, oh, this is just a person. Right? People have different individual reactions to things they see in the world. And to try to pretend that these are like objective metrics and we could just define our way. Right. Okay. I'm glad you see my point. Yeah. Let's see where this goes.
I have no idea. I mean, to me, it would have to stem from a fundamental lack of science education, and whatever that might cause to be written on the board.
Is the reason you're there because you don't have science education?
No.
Okay. What do you think? Don't show him either, please. What do you think the reason that he's written on the board is?
I'm very surprised after our last question, but knowing you're Christian.
He was
Christian.
Oh, X. Okay. I was going to say it might be because you felt God determined them.
But he doesn't.
No, he's an
atheist.
ex-Christian.
Yeah, so what's on his board?
Particularly over the last 10 years or so, more and more people have felt able to be open about determining what they feel their gender should be and what they were born, regardless of the chromosomes and how they were born.
Is that what's on your board? Did he get that right?
That's pretty close.
But that's a no. Is that a no or a yes?
That's a no.
Okay. I'm going to give you one more guess. What's on his board?
Differences in epigenetic settings.
Differences in epigenetics.
I'm going to need a definition on that one.
So no,
gonna say
that's
no.
not on the board. I'm going to give you one more guess as to what's on his board.
Come on.
I think you were kind of close. I think.
That everyone should
Tell
be
him, tell him.
free. Sorry. I think you put that everyone should be free to choose exactly who they would like to be. And therefore it's not down.
I mean, my guess would just be that it's about development, not about chromosomes, because they don't always match, and the thing that we generally pay attention to is your development.
To birth. It's a matter of choice.
That's not on the board.
Okay, can you please show them what's on the board?
Okay, I'm stepping out on a little bit of a limb because I'll claim possible ignorance here, but that it's more complicated than mere X or Y chromosomes. There's humans walking around with male and female parts, and I don't know what to make of that. I don't know how they should identify. I don't know if they...
And to be clear, I don't know what specifically he's talking about, but there are people who are born that way, not people who have had some kind of medical transition or some kind of surgery. But there are people who are born, let's say, with a penis and with ovaries, or with a vagina and internal testes. These are things that occur. I think it's on the order of 1% of the population, which is about, how many people are red-haired. It might be lower. It might be half of that, because there's different types of ways that people can be intersex, which is the umbrella term. But people who have a mix of, let's say, genitalia that you might expect from one sex and gametes that you might expect from the other sex, I think that's relatively rare, but it absolutely occurs. And whatever our feelings about how to define that person's sex, that's something that we have to pay attention to, because it's the edge cases that really do determine what are we looking at when things are lined up. So when you say, okay, well, it's XY chromosome or it's development, we don't really know what it is. But if it turns out that we pay attention to the development but not the chromosomes, then we know that it was really development all along. That was the thing that mattered for us. So people like to pretend that you're just looking at an edge case, this is irrelevant. It's actually the most relevant thing, because this is where those two things go out of coherence, and it tells us which one matters to us.
Are medically male or female, and honestly it makes me confused, but that's why.
Okay. That's exactly what I'm going to ask him. Did that persuade you?
I think it did. I think it's added an extra element, which is the medical element, that there have been hermaphrodites throughout history. There definitely are people who are born between the sexes, as well as the choice. I'm going to step one.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Okay then. Did that persuade you to move to the agree?
No, but the reason it didn't is because it comes back to the same thing. The genes are still making the determination about what you are. The genes are determining that you're hermaphrodite, right? It just all goes.
It's literally, okay, it's the genes or something that happens in development or epigenetics. I actually am not familiar with exactly how these conditions occur, but it's not strictly the sex chromosomes specifically, certainly not at the level of karyotype, whether it's XX or XY. That's obviously not the determining factor. He could say that, I just define it that way. That's just how I think sex is or should be defined or whatever. And there's no problem with that. Again, this is just kind of an irrelevant conversation. Why are we asking these people to define sex? It's just, let's talk about something that actually, right? Because this is kind of arbitrary how we define it.
It all goes down to the genes and what they say.
Okay, I have another question. So put the board down.
Can we ask?
You can ask him anything you want, and then I'm going to ask you another question.
Well, can we ask the claim that hermaphrodite is male or female?
All right, hold on. Pause for a second. I'm going to ask a couple more claims before we do that. So don't read into this claim too much, and I'm not going to explain it. I'm just going to say it. A trans woman is a woman. Move. Define woman.
As in identifies as a woman.
Yeah, I mean, okay. I feel like this feels like kind of a weird follow-up first question to ask. Define a woman. Why wouldn't he ask, okay, well, why did you move to this side? Right? Because moving to that side could be very simple, which is, okay, well, you said, is a trans woman a woman? Based on our understanding of the English language, a trans woman is a type of woman, so she's a woman. It's like, is a black woman a woman? Is a tall woman a woman? Is a young woman a woman? Is an old woman a woman? Right? It's very simple. Okay, what is a woman? Okay, well, that could be very complicated. But how do we nest definitions, or just how do we use the English language? It could be very simple. So, yeah, I mean, it feels a little strange, maybe a little sussy that Peter is asking him this follow-up question. It's not necessarily the first thing that I would ask.
That doesn't change that he is female.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, yeah, these are people who are a little maybe new to this topic, doing their best.
I make that distinction. Medically female identifies as a man.
Oh, wait, what?
Define woman.
An adult human female, genetically speaking.
An adult human female genetically. Okay, sure. That's a totally fine definition. There's nothing, I mean, it's not how I think that we use the term woman, but it's a sensible, it's an understandable definition. I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with that as a definition.
Genetically speaking. Do you accept his definition?
No, I don't accept that definition as mine.
Okay, new claim. The only valid use of woman is adult human female. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
The only valid. I mean, it's simply, it's factually the case that it's not how we use it. We don't look at genetics when we interact with strangers, and yet we evaluate them as, let's say, a man or a woman. So there's really just no argument here. Again, this is being made, it's being kind of tortured into something that could be argued when there's really just nothing to argue here. Let's just break this down into the underlying things, and we can answer each of these individual questions quite simply.
New claim. A woman can mean something other than an adult human female. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, move.
Yeah, they're just going to switch.
Tag on the way past there.
This is fun. They get some exercise at least.
If an adult human female claims that individual is not a woman.
I mean, it's so easy to if you aren't interested in just trying to confuse these issues, and you want to clarify them, ask some follow-up questions like, okay, when I evaluate whether somebody is a man or a woman, I can't do that without knowing their genetic makeup. I think that would clarify it very quickly.
They are wrong. Move. An adult human female claims, I am not a woman. They are wrong.
Sorry, so you're saying if the woman themselves claims...
You said woman. I didn't say woman. If an adult human female says, I am not a woman...
About themselves,
they are wrong.
They're wrong.
They're wrong. They're wrong.
Yeah, that's.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Makes more
It's not
sense.
that I don't want you here.
Are we trying to get one of us over there?
No.
I mean, this is just. Oh God. It's just to focus on obfuscation.
I'm just trying to tease out what people actually believe.
I I find that hard to believe.
Yeah, why are you there?
I'm here very much because I think that an adult woman, that any human being can basically be what they want and say what they want and claim to be what they want. And I think a lot of the arguments over transgender issues aren't actually directly about the people who are claiming, who are feeling that they are of a different sex. It's about all the language around it and trying to stop
fair.
people
Okay.
say things. But for the person who is transgender, yes, absolutely, their belief is.
All right. Did you agree with what he said?
Almost. Again, they can't change their actual sex, but I accept their any statement they make about their identity.
Okay. New claim.
That was well said.
Claiming to be a thing actually makes you that thing.
This is, yeah. I mean, this is what's the term for this? Quest statements, right? So this is like the most dishonest and argumentative framing of a question. It's like, oh, you can, this is just attack helicopter commentary, right? Things like your name or your viewpoint of the world, those are things that it matters what your perspective is. Things like your height or your age are not things. So it's trying to confuse the issue rather than trying to clarify. Is there really nothing?
Feelings
Is it just the same?
and surgery can change your sex. Move.
Yeah, okay. What else do we have lined up?
You don't care about the very simple, common sense unfairness of this entire thing. And I think there's something wrong with you.